all your stuff. What can figure it out? That's how it chooses you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to It Chooses You, Smidgen edition.
Welcome. I am Teresa Sparks, and that over there is Claire Patton.
That's right. Damn Claire Patton.
The damn Claire Patton. She and I discuss things we like, and this beautiful Sunday morning we are bringing you a bite of pop culture called Smidgen edition.
We like to just bring you a little treat on the weekend because you've been good all week.
Yeah. A little Sunday morning coffee and media.
This week, another hot take on a cold topic. We are talking about the series Community.
Yeah, which I had never seen before Claire sent me a list of her favorite episodes that I should watch immediately.
This fully fits into the category of Claire wanted Teresa to watch a thing so she could talk to her about it, and so we might as well make an episode about it.
And it fully fell into the category of Claire has given Teresa something to watch. Am I going to like it? Oh, I do. It's amazing. Yay. Thank you. What a great recommendation.
Now, when we do these episodes where we ask the other person to watch something, you all need to know we never talk about it beforehand.
No.
We do have an agreement that if we hate it, we're going to let each other know. There's always a little bit of pins and needles, and I have to resist the urge to text Teresa and be like, what'd you think? But I don't. I have discipline is what I'm saying, everyone. Community, if anyone doesn't know, was a television series that aired from 2009 to 2014, and then it got canceled by NBC and was picked back up by Yahoo, who was starting to invest in television at the time. Last season aired in 2016. I asked Teresa to watch 3 episodes, just so we have a little bit of a context for this conversation. She watched season 1, episode 2, which is called Spanish 101, which heavily features the wonderful Ken Jeong as Ben Chang, Spanish teacher extraordinaire. I also had her watch
season 1, episode 23, Modern Warfare.
Which is also famously known as the first paintball episode. And then I had you watch season 2, episode 9, my personal favorite, Conspiracy Theories and Interior Design.
So good.
Teresa, what are your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts are, first of all, of course, after I watched it and decided I liked it, I watched many more episodes than just those 3. I did not venture past the end of season 2, partially because of time, but also because I did the thing where I look shit up online.
Yeah, you are correct in that.
So I allow people who know better and are willing to be first followers of TV shows to let me know when I should stop watching. Mm-hmm. And when you sent the list, you said, this is my favorite episode. And when it was in season 2 of 7, I was like, that is a clue.
Absolutely. One of the things I find the most fascinating about Community is how uneven of a show it is. Mm. So the show itself is delightful and wonderful in places, but what really drives me to think about the show is all of the drama around it. We're going to get into a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that drama comes from the conflict between Dan Harmon, the creator of the show, and a big network. So Dan Harmon at one point was actually fired from the show and then brought back in sometime later. You can feel that struggle between the high concept episodes where, for example, in the first paintball episode, it's 100% framed around the concept of 80s action films.
Yes.
And these more normal sitcom episodes. The sitcom episodes are still good. It's a good sitcom. It's quirky. It's fun. But the high concept episodes are where the show really takes off and gets its weirdness and uniqueness. And I know for a fact that those concept episodes are where it got its audience and its rabid following.
I've seen in other shows, and I imagine it's true once I get to these episodes in Community, you can tell where there's a studio executive who understands the spreadsheet but has no idea how art is made and why something is funny and is deciding that this is not what we're doing. This isn't the kind of thing that's going to sell 3 ads in a 30-minute show or whatever the hell they need to make happen financially, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's always interesting to me to watch really great creative people trying to make something when the people who are funding it are fucking idiots, you know?
Yep.
You guys are morons and you control all of the capital in the world. You're idiots. Like, you don't understand why this is good. That's the artist lament always. Yeah, so I researched. I looked at gossip sites online, which counts as research in this podcast, okay? And I was like, oh, right, of course Chevy Chase is a racist prick. Great. And of course Donald Glover is the talent of his generation, and that was a problem for an aging has-been, right? Of course those things happened. And so knowing that and watching, like, having Chevy Chase comment that he hasn't said a single thing in a conversation, I was like, was that an ad lib? And he was commenting on the script, or was that actually written in? Or like, what was that?
There's famously a lot of drama around Chevy Chase. He didn't like the show. He didn't think it was funny. And that's a lot of what gets talked about with the show, is this sort of behind the scenes drama with him.
If you're going to choose between Chevy Chase and Donald Glover, I'm just saying the choice is clear, and it's Donald Glover. But to have him be a part of it and to just be an ass and like, okay, well, we can't get rid of him for some reason, so he's an ass and we'll just write that in.
That's the way you do that, though. And it's interesting how many episodes revolve around Pierce's relationship with the group and desire to fit in and inability to fit in and his limitations as a human being. I think that that's the only thing you can do in that situation.
And it's sad because even though we're focusing on the fact that he's a jerk, we're still focusing on the old white man. Doesn't matter if the focus is because he's a jerk or because he's amazing. It's still about him. We're still centering whiteness and maleness. It's a pain in the ass, man.
Well, let's not focus on him. And let me just name the cast. Let's talk about the main people. Britta Perry is played by Gillian Jacobs. Troy Barnes is played by the illustrious and aforementioned Donald Glover. As he was just coming into his career as a performer, he had actually written for 30 Rock, the sitcom 30 Rock before. Abed Nadir is played by Danny Pudi. Jeff Winger is played by Joel McHale. Annie Edison is played by Allison Brie. Shirley Bennett is played by Yvette Nicole Brown. Ben Chang, as mentioned, is played by Ken Jeong. Pierce Hawthorne, Chevy Chase. And one of my other favorites, who I know we'll end up talking about, Dean Craig Pelton, is played by the wonderful, delightful, oddball Jim Rash.
Dean Pelton is an amazing character. And as someone who worked in academia for a decade, I'm just like, ooh, somebody saw, somebody noticed, and somebody wrote it up. Because we're a real school. I am familiar with that refrain.
I had you watch these different episodes, season 1, episode 2, because it's more sitcom, and it's a good introduction to the characters. I was careful about what I chose. And then I had you watch a couple of the more concept episodes. What did you think about the difference between those kinds of episodes?
I always have a bumpy ride getting into something. Don't know why. It takes me a few episodes to like it. So I watched all 3. And then I had to watch them again after I was like, okay, I know how these people are going to interact. I have some sort of framework. Let me watch them again. And when I watched Spanish 101 again, I was like, oh, okay, this is a sitcom. This is fine. That's great. Okay, great. It's funny. It's fast. It makes visible all those tiny moments that we have when we're relating in a group, and all of the glances and the, who's thinking what about what someone's saying. It's very complex, that way of communicating. And it's, I imagine, very difficult to film and make funny. So impressive. But I was like, sitcom. Okay. And then the freaking Modern Warfare, right? When they're like, what are you going to do when it's all over?
Yeah.
Huddled around a campfire. I also love the start of it. That's really what did it, because he went away for an hour and came back and it was a wasteland.
It was very Mad Max.
Yes, very fast decline. Like, I found him wandering in the neutral zone. And then when Donald Glover greets him as though he's been out on patrol and they thought he was dead because he was late coming home, I was like, awesome. I know what trope this is. This is amazing. Are they going to? Oh, they are going to.
One thing I wanted to mention here is a lot of the episodes of this series were directed by Anthony and Joe Russo, the Russo brothers. I don't know if it's true, but I heard that one of the execs from Marvel actually saw that episode, and that's part of why they were later invited to direct the Avengers movies.
I love that.
I think that shows a lot of perspective on the part of Marvel.
And there is an example of an executive team that are creative and that understand how these things work.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, well, if it works in that, they can make it work on a bigger screen. That's fine, It's the same, like that same creative drive is there. The vision is there, right?
Exactly.
And you can look at Community versus Marvel as a fight between an executive team who doesn't fucking get it and an executive team who absolutely does. And look at the relative success of those two things and make your own, conclusions.
I don't know if you're aware, but the paintball episode was so popular and so beloved by fans that it actually returned, I think 3 times later. So in the second season, Teresa, if you want another good one to watch, there's a 2-part paintball episode. The first one is called A Fistful of Paintballs.
Yes! Spaghetti Western, yes!
And the second one, I don't recall the name right now. The second part of that is a Star Wars send-up.
Amazing.
So we watched the conspiracy theory and interior design.
It's so good.
One thing that's so delightful to me about that episode is the chase scene that occurs in the blanket fort.
So good.
The blanket fort city, I guess we have to call it.
Blanket Village, yeah.
I think one of the things that made the show so popular is that we really connect to shows that honor what they've written before.
Yeah.
When we watch a show, we remember the thing that they said in that other episode because we're fans. And so when the show itself demonstrates that they remember that thing they said several episodes before, that makes us feel a part of some kind of inside joke or inside world. And we feel like insiders. We love things like that. And I think that that's a big part of building a fan base for a television show. And that's one thing that Dan Harmon did incredibly well. But there's a later episode called Pillows and Blankets, which is a Ken Burns style documentary about the pillow fort and blanket fort war that is started between Abed and Troy over which is better. And it's a long conflict, and they make a Ken Burns style documentary about it.
That's amazing. I'm going to watch that today. I know what I'm doing this afternoon. Yeah, I love that blanket fort because that whole part of that episode started with the adult voice, which was Abed. Are we too big for this? And I was like, big is a very sweet word to choose when you're discussing. And are you talking about the fact that you're in college and you just build a blanket fort and that's your fun? And then Donald Glover goes, yeah, but if we pop that corner up with a few more cushions, we could vault the ceiling. We're just physically too big. We are not emotionally too big. We are exactly the right size emotionally and in our fun having. I love that. And then they're like, yes. And then suddenly someone comes in and they're like, oh, cool. And then they just, and then it just grows because people come in and see it and want to be a part of it. They're like, great. How many blankets do you have?
I did want to mention, I don't want to be dismissive of this, but it's not the focus of this episode. Dan Harmon was accused of sexual harassment by one of the writers on Community, Megan Gantz. He addressed it on his podcast, and he actually addressed it in a really aware and sensitive way, surprisingly. I'm not at all forgiving him for what occurred there. He went into detail of what occurred. He apologized for it. He took responsibility for it. And he made clear that he was not respectful of women because if he had been, this would have never been an issue. He also owned up to the ways in which he made her life more difficult after he was rejected by her. And Megan Gantz actually later publicly forgave him because she felt like the way in which he apologized was absolutely right. I want to acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge that there's a lot of efforts of a lot of people that made this show so great. It wasn't just Dan Harmon. Megan Gantz is another one. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, I looked into it a little bit, and she apparently went to, like, after he had sort of apologized, and he really, reading his apology, he's saying all of the things. He's like, this is what's actually happening. And he's like, and I made this choice, and then I did this, and then I did this, and I completely did that. And I understand whatever. She said she called it a masterclass in how to apologize. Because the thing is, like, if you, oh, I'm so sorry you felt that way. Like, that's how not to do it, y'all. But if you actually understand the problem and you understand where you fell down, right? And then you say, here's what I did. Here's how it happened. No excuses. The things I did to you were unacceptable. Here's how I'm different now. Here's how I know to notice it if it starts to happen again. All of that indicates that you have learned something from this experience and you will not be a perpetrator again. And that's really, I think, what we want in an apology is like, convince me this won't happen again. Demonstrate that you understand. And he did, which is nice.
If you all are interested in learning more about it, there's a Vox piece by Caroline Framke about it that's goes into more detail. Also, if you're interested in just learning more about the history of this wild ride that is the show Community, there's a Vox piece by Emily van der Werf. So Megan Gantz went on to write for Modern Family. And now she's writing for what, Teresa?
Mythic Quest is what she's working on. What this conversation is making me realize is that our strength is in, like, introducing grandmas to old shows, like the Hot Takes on Cold Topics. And I say grandmas, and I say it kind of deprecatingly, but I just mean people who don't necessarily have time to watch and think about television all the time. We have to be intentional about what we watch. We have limited time. There's someone like me out there who is so busy that she would have never, like, I'm going to watch this 10-year-old sitcom. Let me see what this is about. I would never do that. But I should, because it's really, really good.
And check out the hot new show Community. It's on Netflix if you want to check it out. Find us on Twitter @ChoosesIt. And tell us what your favorite episodes of Community are. And Teresa will watch all of them.
I will. I will watch every single episode you recommend. We're also on Patreon at It Chooses You. Look us up. You can find all of our episodes there. Have a great day, you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Testing. Great. Thank you for listening to It Chooses You. Your hosts are Teresa Sparks and Claire Patton. Our theme song is by Bobby Dart. If you'd like to get in touch with us, drop us an email at itchoosesyoupodcast@gmail.com.